Hi everyone. Good morning, beautiful people. Good morning, world. How are you today? My name is Minnie and please welcome to Wings of Inspiration. Our guest for today is, she is graduated and Bachelor of Science in Psychology and a Master's degree in Counseling and Development. And she is a school counselor for over 10 years and elementary age students. Please welcome Miss Makiko.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Elementary school children may be starting to form new friend groups and participate in new activities as they come into their own. As they start to study subjects about the world outside their homes, they look to teachers as well as their parents to make them feel safe and to help sort it all out. How do you assist the kids in managing their anxiety of being away from home?
I think that's a great question, and I like that you are using the word managing, right? Because I think as adults and the caregivers, whether it be a teacher or parents or somebody that spends a significant time with the children, the goal is not to eliminate anxiety. It's to help them manage that, and especially at a young age, we have to consider what's developmentally appropriate for them. So one of the things that I think it's really important is always to listen to them. And by listening, I mean, if they're telling you, I'm really scared to go to school, really acknowledging that feeling and saying, you know, I hear that you're very scared. It's okay to be scared. Acknowledging that it's okay to have that fear, but also not empower them with that fear. So when you say, oh, it's so scary to go to school, right? That the way you phrase that, then they start internalizing that, right? So it's a very fine balance of saying, you know, it's okay to be afraid or it's okay to be scared and validating that feeling, but then talking about switching it, right? So it's okay to feel afraid. Now, let's think about when you get to school, you know, who is somebody that you like to play with, or, you know, who is the first person you see, and just kind of thinking of small steps rather than saying, oh, yes, it's so scary to go to school, you know. And I think one of the biggest thing, I think as parents and adults not to do is to eliminate that fear. So if we say, oh, it's scary to go to school, okay, don't go to school, right? That is
just a reverse psychology.
Yes, right. And just taking that fear away, then that child doesn't get that opportunity to, you know, find strategies, find skills, learn that they can overcome that fear, right? And of course, that doesn't happen overnight. You know, and I think one of the things to help them manage is we as adults, we can help them think out loud. So sometimes when they're young, they don't have the vocabulary or they don't know how to put things together. So if you notice something, you can say, oh, you know, I noticed that, you know, you were really happy when you were in the bus, but as soon as you got off the bus, you were getting a little nervous, right? So you're talking kind of out loud for them. And then the other part is finding those small steps and celebrating, right? So if day one of school, they were really nervous, they were crying, and then when they got on the bus, they were still crying. But then on day two, same thing, but when they got on the bus, they weren't crying. You can celebrate that small step, right? So they were still crying when they left you, but when they got on the bus, they weren't crying. So you can speak out loud for them and say, I noticed that when you got on the bus the second day, you weren't crying, so maybe you felt more brave, right? So then you continue celebrating. And I think the important thing with that is using very specific language.
What is that kind of language?
So I think as adults, sometimes we say, oh, great job. Right? Or we say, you did really good today. And as a child, you might say, wait, I did really good. What part of the day did I do good? Did I do good because I went to school? Did I do good because I got on the bus?
Yeah.
But if you use specific language like, oh, you know, you were so brave today because you got on the bus by yourself.
Yes.
You know, so you're really being specific about what and relating that to, you know, the desired outcome, right, is really important. So,
So is it good also to give them some treats? Just like, you know, after school or, you know, when you are in the school.
Yeah, I'm always very careful with that, just because, especially at a young age, it is very hard to get that intrinsic, that inner kind of reward, right? I think as adults, when we get a praise or that's enough. But with children, sometimes you need that outside rewards help. But I do think, and I think this is a theme that I always think about, is one of the things that as a child, something that the most powerful thing is that connection. So if you relate that reward to quality time with, you know, either a parent or quality time with a sibling. So you say, you know, today you did such a great job with being brave and got on the bus by yourself. You know, why don't you know, mommy and I, you and mommy, we go and
some shopping,
you know, or you know,
something.
Go get ice cream or cook together, right? So it's not about that. I'm always careful about making it into a object of buying them things, because then it becomes it's hard to go back, right? Because then okay, so the first time it was a sticker, then the next time it was a doll, and then the next time it has to be something bigger.
Yeah, just like some kind of bribery.
Yes. Yeah. And I know the intention is not that to bribe them. So I think always quality time is always, and it's not about how long you spend time together. It could be a 5-minute activity, but that you both enjoy, and that you are all present those 5 minutes, right? I think as adults, sometimes, you know, we're on our phone, we're distracted with responsibilities, but really making sure that those 5 minutes, if you promise them, oh, you know, we're going to have ice cream together, you're fully present that 5 minutes with them, and doing that activity with them.
Yeah, so do you think bribery is good for the children?
I think there's a time and of a place, right? I think sometimes as adults and parents, there are times where it's the last resort, right? You have to get to point A to point B. Yeah,
that's true. Because as a domestic helper, when I look after the kids, is I don't want to do this because they will used to it. They will used to, you know, they will follow you because you have to give something.
Yes.
But, you know, as you said, this is the last resort to, you know.
Yeah. And I always think, you know, and when you're in a situation and, you know, you need to get, you know, everybody, you know, you need to get somewhere at a certain time, and you've tried every strategy possible to get them ready, and they're still not listening, and you know, it's hard, and you just have to get there. Of course.
Okay, you surrender.
Of course.
Okay. What is the resilience, and how does it relate to child development?
I think resilience is a term that, you know, we hear more and more these days, and it's important, right? And we talk usually about resilience in adults. And resilience, you know, when we talk about resilience is that process of being able to adapt after you face something challenging or something stressful or a trauma or, you know, a very challenging event. And so kind of thinking about like being able to bounce back, you know, so is you bounce back from a very low place to back to where you were before that event happened. And of course it's not, you know, there's so many components. If you really look at, you know, the research around resilience, there's genetic factors of making you, some people are just genetically born to be a little more resilient, or have some of those traits or those characteristics. But also resilience is something that we can learn over time. And by learn, I mean, it's practicing managing some of, because you can't practice being resilient unless you have stress and challenging events, right? So it's one of those things that it takes time. And I think, when we think about child development, and I think this is common in everything, when they're young, they have that ability, they're kind of like sponges, they soak things in, right? So being able to practice those skills and those strategies that help them be resilient at an early age, of course, will help them as they get older. Right? Now, that being said, as adults too, you can practice and learn how to be resilient.
Yeah, so, you learn from your mistakes, your past experiences.
Exactly. So I think when we talk about resilience, there's many things for children. One is having that, and it doesn't have to be with a parent, because of course not every child can be close to their parent or, lives with their parent, but having strong connections with a caregiver, right? I think that's very important. Not only because of that security with that attachment, but also watching the children watching the adults model, right? When that adult has a stressful situation, when an adult has a challenge, how does that adult overcome that challenge? And children always watch, and children always, copy what you do. So if you have a challenging situation and you react with anger and you just spiral down with negative thoughts about that, that is what the child is learning as a coping strategy, right? But if you, the way you overcome a stressful situation, you have these big feelings, but then you find a way to, overcome them, they also see that, right? So I think that being said, I think it's okay for it to be messy, right?
Yes,
and
that's
it doesn't have
because,
to be perfect.
You will not born to be perfect.
Exactly.
Yeah, just because in every mistake you have learned a lesson. And just like my kids told me that, Mama, you are so strong. Because I don't want to, being a parent, I don't want them to see me that I am. Of course, we also experience some lowest at your life, but I don't want to see them that, oh, you are defeated, or you defeat. You have encountered so many challenges, but I just want to see me that how to overcome these challenges,
and that you're strong, and that you were able to find a way out of a challenging situation. I think that's the most important part, because I think as adults, right, you have this instinct to protect children, and protect not only children but people around you, right? And I think this happens with relationship between adults too. Sometimes you don't want them to suffer, you don't want them to go through a hard time, so you kind of shield them and protect them from all the bad things. But that doesn't necessarily mean that it's a good thing for them, because
they need to experience also.
Yes, exactly. And with children too, if you shield them from all the bad in the world and they don't have any challenges, and that doesn't necessarily build that resilience, right? Of course, we don't want to, purposely put them in a situation where they're going to suffer, right? But life is always full of stress. And that's the
very
reality.
challenging.
Yes, and no matter how much we protect them, there's when they go to school, we can't be with them, right? Or if they're playing with somebody, it's not healthy for you to be 24 hours a day, around them and knowing what they're doing. And at some point, they're going to be older and they're going to have to, do things by themselves. So I think the important thing is, one, maintaining that connection and you being that safe person that is listening. And I think the importance with listening is validating how they're feeling and not always giving them the solution. I think that's really important. But also
they learn to discover the solution.
Yes. So you can ask open-ended questions like, if they say, oh, today one of my friends, he kept pushing me when we were playing, and you can say, how are you feeling about that? And I'm feeling angry, right? Sorry. And then I think instead of saying, oh, I will talk to their parents about this because it's not okay for them to push you, then you're eliminating all these learning experience that your child can have. And so instead of saying, oh, I will solve that for you, can say, you can be brave, you have some strategies to solve problems, right? What could you do next? Or who could you go and talk to, right? And kind of, you're not giving them the solution, but you're empowering them because your child has those skills and knows how to problem solve. And I think those are important things as a listener to do, because if you are solving all their problem, you're not listening to them, right? You're just solving it, but maybe that's not what they want or what will be helpful for them.
Yeah, that's true. And how to build resilience in a sensitive child.
Yeah, I think, one of the things is, of course, some children, adults, are born with, maybe are predisposed to being more sensitive or more anxious, right? Of course, there's environmental factors there, but I think one of the important things is, again, going back to acknowledging how they're feeling. And I think that's why it's so important at a young age to talk about feelings and to be able to identify them, because that's the first step in really able to express how you're feeling. So especially with highly sensitive children, it's a fine balance, right? Because you don't want them to hurt. Yeah, and you don't want them to suffer. You don't want them to constantly be feeling anxious or worried or scared about something. And so really identifying what is the trigger, right? And in one child it may be that being around a lot of people causes them that anxiety. So working with their teacher or them to understand, okay, what are situations that how does it make you feel in your body? What are things that you can do to maybe calm your body when you're feeling, when you have these strong feelings? Also, talking with, I think helping them identify, things that they can do. And again, it's very different. You can't expect a 3-year-old, right, or a 2-year-old to be able to find all these things that work for them. It takes time and it takes practice, and it might not always go the right way. You might try it, say, okay, next time, let's, would you be comfortable with trying, going and doing this? And maybe they come back that day and say, that didn't work. That actually made me feel more, worried. And that may happen. But that doesn't mean that you can't continue trying, right? So I think be really validating their fear or their worries or the feelings that they're having is very important. But working together to find these small steps and again, praising them for being able to move forward in these small steps. And really, I would say, really focusing on these small steps, because it may not seem like a big step for us as adults, right? Because I think us as adults, we're very goal-oriented, so we want the result. But the small steps really do make a difference. And for a child, it does make them feel more empowered, right? So again, if it's that, it took them only 5 minutes rather than 15 minutes to calm down or to be able to do something, really celebrating that, right? As adults, we're like, okay, we just want you to not have to go through that, but really celebrating those little small steps because that's how they learn, right? They learn, oh, that worked for me. I'm going to do that next time, you know? And they still require that external kind of input from you, because it's hard for them to internalize all that. And I think that's also how they build their confidence, right? So it's really important.
Okay. How do you handle when the children is have tantrums? You know, you know, it's really hard to handle.
Yeah, and I think, you know, of course, for the adult in the situation, it's hard, right? It's hard. One, you're watching them having a really hard time. Two, you just want the tantrum to stop. And three, sometimes the tantrums are irrational, right? You're like, it wasn't a big deal. Why are you reacting this big, right? So as adults, it's hard to watch that and to experience that, of course. And I think one of the things that's important is really being able to think about your role in a situation when a child is having a tantrum. Is your role is not to kind of explain to them why this is not a big deal. You know, their truck fell off the couch and, you know, they're having a big tantrum. It's not explaining to them logically, look, your truck is okay. Why are you crying? That's not your role. The role is to help them regulate.
So, is it okay that to let them calm down? And don't talk to them, or
and that could be a strategy. I think one of the first things I think as adults, because we are able to do this, is you making sure that you're regulated, that you're calm, right? Because it's human nature. If somebody's having a tantrum, you're going to have some reaction to that, whether it be that now you're getting more dysregulated, you're getting upset, you know, you're this is affecting you, right? And if you respond with a heightened, you know, if you yell back, then instead of helping them calm down, you're escalating their tantrum. So being able to look into yourself, and I think we call this co-regulation, right? So you're helping them self-regulate, but you're also regulating and making sure that you're not escalating things. And that could be by saying, you know, right now I can tell that you're very sad or you're very angry. I'm also feeling very, I have strong feelings too. I need to calm down, you know, let's take a little, you know, start breathing together, or let's go to our calm spot, or let's do this together to help calm them, right? And so, again, it's not about you, it's about the child and really acknowledging their feeling. But I think in your head, realizing that we're humans, we have flaws, we are going to react a certain way to that tantrum. Making sure that we're not doing anything to escalate the situation. So our role in that situation is to help them calm down, help them feel better. And so I think, you know, I talk with my students sometimes about the brain. And when a child is in the middle of a tantrum, you know, the prefrontal cortex or the thinking part, or you know, that logical part of the brain is not functioning, right? It's not that it's not functioning, but it's not in control. And so it's all about that flight or fight mode. And that's the situation you're in. So if you try to reason with them, or you know, talk about consequences, it's not going through. And if anything, it's making them more and more upset. So the goal is not to find a solution, is to help them calm down and get to a place where they are able to talk about it. And that may be, you know, it may take them 30 minutes to calm down, and maybe the conversation you have maybe 2 hours later, right? When they are calm and they are able to talk about it. So I think that's the important part, is when they're having a tantrum, it's not an immediate thing. It's your goal is to help them calm down and regulate. And hopefully as they learn to regulate, you know, and learn what works for them, whether it be taking deep breaths, whether it be going and playing with a toy that they like, or going to, you know, hug a pillow.
Yeah.
Whatever works for them to calm them down is what's important.
Yeah, because there are some there are some people saying that when the kids when the kids having a tantrums, it's some of them are getting your attention.
Yeah. I
think this is the only way for them to get your attention. That's why, you know, this is the way that, you know, to get your.
And I think it's acknowledging that feeling, right? So if a child is having a tantrum and maybe they're, you know, they're 2 and maybe they can't say why they're feeling that way, but you can say, oh, you know, it looks like you're very upset, or you're angry because this happened, and they may say yes, right? And so you're acknowledging and validating how they're feeling, and you can say, yeah, it is, you know, it is annoying that your sister pushed you. Like you're validating that feeling, right? And then after that, it's helping them calm down, and it may be if the younger they are, they might, you know, you might want to say, okay, let's put your hand on your belly and let's breathe together, right? And breathing is always a great first step to start regulating. And, you know, saying to a child, okay, take deep breaths is very different from you breathing with them. And you might have to do it 10 times and just, you know, repeating this, taking a deep breath in and deep breath out. And maybe the first couple of breaths, they might not do it with you because they're in the middle of crying, right? And it's physically, it's hard for them to do that. But if you continue doing it, they might start, you know, breathing with you. And then slowly they might start calming down. And again, really making sure that they are regulated. And when they are regulated, then that's when you can start talking about, okay, let's think about what happened. You know, what made you so upset, or, you know, what can you do different next time, right? But yeah, it is, I think, especially, you know, if you're in a supermarket full of people, and some, you know, your child is having a tantrum, it's hard.
I know. It's really hard. I experienced that.
And every single technique and skill that you've had that worked in the past, that might not be the first thing in your head. Your first feeling is, this is so embarrassing. Why are they doing this?
That's true.
We need to get out of here, right? So, you know, again, it's not about, you know, being perfect, you know, and being able to, you know, just that one tantrum and you managing it differently is not going to be, you know, a fatal flaw, right? So it's about understanding, you know, because when you are helping them regulate themselves and calming down, you are teaching them skills, right?
Yeah, so how can you do that? Yeah, especially you said that you are in public places. Public place that your child started getting tantrums. So what is the best thing to do? Just talk to her, or just, you know?
I think calming them down. And I think it's hard, especially when people are watching and you feel like, oh, you know, they might think I'm a bad parent or I'm a bad caregiver, right? But helping them calm down and just, you know, sitting there with them, and if they're, you know, splayed on the floor, sitting next to them and helping them and say, you know, okay, let's breathe together, let's calm down, you know, and some children don't like when you use the word calm down. Right? They're like, I don't want to calm down, right?
Yes, exactly.
But just getting to them to a point where they are calm enough, they are regulated, that, you know, and it may be that, okay, you know, we have to do this outside rather than inside. So you might want to take them out of that situation. Whatever works for you in that situation is fine. There isn't a perfect, you know, and as children, they always find the worst possible timing to have a tantrum.
So using reverse psychology can help also with them? Or, you know, when you are in the situation that you think, I don't know what to do, you know, in a public places.
Yeah, I think when, of course, it's making sure you're also calm too, because if you have big feelings about it, sometimes you might get more angry, or you might not think logically, right? And so I know this probably isn't the most practical thing to say, but even if it's in the middle of a supermarket, yes, people will be watching, people may be judging, and honestly, every child has tantrums, right? So it's just sitting there with them and trying to calm them down. I think that is the, and if you could say, it's there's a lot of people in here, and that seems to be making you upset, so let's go outside and have a little walk, or let's go drink some water. Now the tantrum may be because they want a toy, right?
Yeah.
And it could be, if you had already told them, no, we're not going to get that toy, sticking to that is very important, right?
Yes,
and it may get them more and more upset, but you can say, I already told you that we are not going to get that toy. I know that makes you really upset, and acknowledging that feeling, right? That they are upset because they're not getting that toy, and helping them calm down. And again, I know that I keep saying that, but just regulating, because it's hard when they're having a tantrum to make them do something logical, right? If you think about as adults too, when we're really, really upset, or we're really, really, it's hard for us to think like we would when we are calm, right? I think that part is, when you asked before about, some people think that when they're having a tantrum, it's because they want that attention. I think that, yes, there is some truth into that, but I think really being aware of being consistent, right? So if they're at the supermarket and you already told them, no, we're not getting that, and they have a tantrum, of course, that's their way of showing that they're upset, right? And you get them that toy, right? It's not, it's not the children's fault in that case. It's not that they're manipulating you, because I don't like that word, but they're learning. That is a learned behavior, right? So that we are kind of doing it for them, and because the tantrum part, that them being dysregulated, that's out of their control, right? And now they got a toy out of that. It's they didn't cause that, we did, right? So I think that's the different part, is where we put a lot on the children, but really it's how we respond to a situation too.
So how do you encourage resilience in children?
I would say, as adults, being okay that there are going to be moments that your child is going to feel uncomfortable, and because they can't do something, right? So whether it be they're having problems with their friends, whether it be they're having a hard time building this Lego castle, they can't do it yet, and letting them make those mistakes, but helping them through that. Again, I say helping, not doing it for them, right? And so I think that being okay with that discomfort is a good thing. So how do you build resilience? I would say one is connection. So be there for them, listening to them, validating them, knowing that you are there for them. Now that being said, don't solve everything for them, right? So that connection piece is important. I think that helping them find positive ways to approach things, right? So, having that common language in your house, that it's okay to make a mistake. What did you learn from your mistake, rather than being afraid of making mistakes? I think that's important to building resilience. And I think the third part is is, you know, and as children, it's hard to tell them some things are within our control, some things are out of our control. But, you know, if you, if there is a routine or things that you do at home, or if you know, if faith is a big thing in your family, it's really, you know, leaning to that, right? So, you know, if you pray every night before you go to sleep, that is a great way also to manage anxiety too, right?
Yes.
Also letting them know that there are some things that are out of our control.
Yeah.
And also you modeling that for them. So I do think, you know, family time is important.
Yes,
conversations at the end of the day when you're eating dinner together and saying, what was one thing that, you know, you feel like you were really proud of today that you did? And what is something that you know, was hard, but you want to continue working on? Because you're acknowledging that, celebrating the good things, but also acknowledging that things are hard and celebrating what you did in a hard situation. So I think connection is important, helping them have positive thoughts, and, you know, relying on, you know, whether it be faith, whether it be routines and traditions you have at home, also relying on the people around you is so important.
Okay, yeah, that's so great. This is very great, and thank you so much, Miss Makiko, for your time. And it's a very good explanation. It's a very good, you know, all the parents maybe will love this. You know, just before I started to, before I came here, I just invite some of the parents. I do live and invite some parents, single mom to join us here, because I know that this is can help them. So thank you so much, Miss Makiko.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time, and thank you for the great words for the parents as well, to how to raise a resilient and motivated child.
And I think just one last thing is for every parent is, you're doing a great job, right? Things are hard, but you're doing a great job. And I think, you know, that you're doing the best that you can. And I think really acknowledging that is important. And so, you know, that's just one thing I did want to put out there.
Okay. So thank you so much. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you for joining us here, and stay safe, everyone. Bye for now.